Thursday session for Bitcoin. We've got about 5 hours left. We're still going sideways, but in my last couple of videos, I've been talking about the support levels of where we might find support. Maybe we already did at a recent low. Bollinger Bands are tightening up, telling us something's about to happen. Squeeze move up or down is about to happen. But I've talked about my last couple of videos. I've talked about my longer term targets for Bitcoin and about the inverse head and shoulders pattern measuring up towards the 1.618 expansion from the previous rally near the 171,000 area. And I've talked about the Fibonacci extension levels here, previous advance, and the breakout we've had of the inverse head and shoulders. And maybe we're in back test mode here. And then again, this measurement is a measurement from the low to the high over here, and that's measuring up towards that same 1.618 extension level. And I've talked about the Fibonacci extensions from the previous decline over here, the previous decline, which would measure up towards the 1.61 extension near the 175,000 area at 174,500 or so. That 175,000 area I've talked about. And again, I think that is where we eventually are headed. Still could get a bigger pullback. We're stalling at the 1.382 right here, which is where we stalled out right here for a couple of weeks before going and hitting that 1.61 Fibonacci, 1.618 Fibonacci extension level from the previous decline over here of the previous bear market, and again, that's where we topped. I think it's very likely we're going to reach that 1.618 before all is said and done. I think it's going to happen in a couple of months here, probably September or October. And then I think Bitcoin will top at the upper channel line. And notice the upper channel line of my channel, which I've talked about, that's my target. It's in harmony with these Fibonacci extension levels, the previous Fibonacci levels from the previous advance, 171,000. 500 or so, and here 174,500. That 175,000 area, give or take, I think is where we're likely headed. So again, if we stall further here at the 1.38, you can get further testing of the breakout of the inverse head and shoulders pattern that we've looked at great length and detail right here. So I remain long-term bullish on Bitcoin. I think it's going to peak later this year and a few months from now. That's why I told you when I went long in April, finding the double bottom pattern at key support of 74,000. I told you we were bottoming, and when everybody said we were about to crash, all season was canceled, and all the rest of the nonsense. And again, I told you that Bitcoin going to go make new highs. I'm holding a long-term position from there, and I again plan on selling at that upper channel line, just ignoring the price fluctuations here, longer-term swing trade. And we've had the breakout of this inverse head and shoulders pattern, shallow retracement here at 12%, went up here and we cleared 112,000. And we could pull back to it or pull back to the trend line right here from the high here, slightly excluding the shadow here, connected to the May 22nd peak there at 112,000. We could still come in here and test this level and back test this breakout of the pattern. And that could give us a bull flag going into the back test line and going into the support levels. And again, so it's still possible that we drop down into the lower end of this pattern of the bull flag. It may not be done. We've rallied up to the upper boundary here a couple of times recently, and we've stalled just below this level right here. So is this pattern going to still carve out? Is it still under construction? I think that's very possible. If we end up losing the support zone, the low here, then you have this trend line directly below that, and then you have this trend line directly below that, the lower boundary, the bull flag, and then you have horizontal support directly below that at the 112,000 with our 50-period moving average. So just some levels I'm looking at. Again, I've been showing you the long-term target levels for going higher, and I've talked about some of these trend lines for going lower. These are the support levels where I think Bitcoin's going to find support. Likely getting a breakout of the inverse head and shoulders and a back test of it, and then resuming the advance. We're likely in wave 3 for Bitcoin. Wave 1 being over here, the ABC for wave 2 here, WXY more likely and probably now in the beginning of the wave three or into it, maybe halfway or almost halfway into it, if we can establish a higher low and continue and resume the advance. So again, continue to believe Bitcoin's going to go to my longer term targets, down 0.27% at the moment with just under 5 hours left in the trading session, about $350 at the 17,500 area. Now, again, look at this. We have a potential bull flag, okay, that could take us down to lower levels below the support zone. But look at we're going sideways after our topping tail. There on the July high, mid-July there, we peaked, we got a topping tail, and then we started going sideways. I've marked that here with this rectangle. Can you see this? If we break down from the rectangle, you can get a larger bull flag, maybe even extend the boundary down over here somewhere towards 112,000 area, certainly possible. But you could get this larger bull flag pattern still under construction, as we looked at a moment ago and here up close. If we get an upward resolution, you can get a breakout of the bull flag immediately, and again, we can resume the advance. The S&P and the NASDAQ are likely peaking along with NVIDIA, so we may still have more volatility with Bitcoin. There has been periods of short-term decoupling here through this correction back over here, the correction here. The S&P is making new highs right now. Bitcoin's not. There's been periods of short-term decoupling. We do have a longer-term positive correlation. So again, we've had this divergence on the RSI. The RSI does not look at the shadows here. So again, you have peak over here. You move slightly higher, just ever so slightly right there, forming that divergence. If we start seeing the RSI drop into the negative region, and we start breaking down below this level right here, getting rejection at the 10 and 20 period, the 10 is the red line, the 20 is the blue line, then you can get a bigger sell-off. The 50s down here at horizontal support. This was the resistance zone, now turned support. So again, going to be looking at this closely, given that we continue to struggle in the trading range and at this trend line right here, the upper boundary of our bull flag. It is a bullish pattern, but we're still likely carving it out. So if we get a bigger sell-off, watch the lower boundary here, or maybe from this low shadow right here, a parallel boundary develops at lower levels near the 112,000, 111,000 area. Our 50 period is at that same area. The Bollinger Bands are very tight. Look at this. Look at the Bollinger Bands. The upper band came down, now it's going sideways. The lower band comes up, and now it's going sideways. It's telling you, the tightening of the bands is telling you something is about to happen. A squeeze move up or down. We don't know which way, but a squeeze move is about to happen. It could be that we go down and further develop the bull flag and then go up and go the other direction. Oftentimes, that's the way it works. Oftentimes, you'll get a squeeze move in one direction and then quickly reverse and go in the other direction. Doesn't always play out that way, but oftentimes it's the case. If that is the case, and maybe we're still under construction here with our bull flag, and we could still be in wave 3. Talked about at great length in detail. So just watching things closely here. Now, if I zoom out, before I do, I just want to say stochastic with today's sell-off is rolling back over here at the 50 level. So it is still possible that this thing is still under construction. Now, again, I'm longer term bullish on Bitcoin, but shorter term bearish here because we've got the topping tail and the momentum is currently bearish with the momentum line. We're starting to see some signals turn bearish with our trending signals as we've been going sideways here. Let me zoom out and just show you again the support levels. This is the trend line right here from this peak right here, and the peaks over here slightly excluding the January top shadow. And again, that's support. The dotted red lines right here, that's the resistance zone turn support, 110 to 112,000. So these are the levels that I'm looking at. We're still forming a bull flag. We've had a negative divergence give us a sell-off. Price went higher, and the MACD made a lower high. So again, going to be watching. Are we in back test mode of the breakout of the inverse head and shoulders? And then we resume the advance, or could we get something deeper I've talked about, you get a massive extended wave 3. This could just be the first wave of it. I don't know if that is the case. Again, that would be something that we would need further evidence on, a bigger sell-off if that were to happen, going back to the 100 period moving average. Right now I'm looking for a back test, and I believe that Bitcoin is going to correct here, but then resume the advance. P is wrapping up its seasonality, its positive seasonality in July. August tends to be a negative month. Then I think the advance is going to resume for the market. And then I think Bitcoin and the stock market are probably all going to top somewhere in the coming months ahead, maybe September, October. But if Bitcoin is in wave 3, it might get a more mild pullback than what we could see, something more dramatic with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ and NVIDIA. Again, I've talked about completing primary wave 2 here, primary wave 1 over here. Let me just zoom out a little bit more so you can see that. Primary wave 1, possibly a wave 3 under construction right now. We're getting these smaller waves that are going to make up the primary wave 3. Primary wave 2 here circled, and again, possibly intermediate wave 1, intermediate wave 2, and then now we're getting possibly the extended intermediate wave 3 that's unfolding in these minor waves 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 here and 5. Now, if we get a bigger pullback, like I said, this whole thing could just end up being our first intermediate wave, and then we're getting a wave 2. Okay, and then we get a wave 3, 4, and 5, and this whole thing makes up one gigantic primary wave 3. My alternative scenario, if we get a bigger, if we end up getting a bigger sell-off, we just have 5 minor waves, which is 1, 2, possibly 3, 4, and then 5, completing intermediate wave 1 right here. And then now we're in intermediate wave 2 of our primary wave 3. So again, you're going to have this extended wave, like what we've just seen with NVIDIA, the massive wave. I think those are the possibilities, but right now we're breaking down from this trend line right here. The trend line right here, we've broken it, throwing back and back testing it, hitting this trend line and getting rejection, hitting this trend line and getting rejection, and turning down off of that level and down at the moment as I'm making the video, down about 0.60%. So down over 0.5% off that level. We're going sideways here on the 50 period moving average, and still above the 200. Going to be watching though, do we see a bigger pullback? So watch these support levels that I've talked about, the trend lines and this resistance zone now turn support. I think those are the possible LA wave counts. Either we're getting these smaller micro waves that now completed intermediate wave 1, intermediate wave 2, and now we're working on intermediate wave 3 for our extended wave 3, primary wave 3. Or again, this whole thing, as I said, is just one massive wave 1, intermediate wave 1. Now we're in intermediate wave 2 of our extended wave 3 for primary wave 3. So again, those are the two most likely scenarios. I think we are likely in wave 3. If we get a bigger sell-off, then this whole thing could be the extended wave 1, intermediate wave 1 in primary wave 3. Are you picking up what I'm throwing down? So we'll be watching these support levels. Maybe in my next video, I'll look at, if we break down further below this low, then I'll be looking at the Fibonacci retracement levels of this advance right here. With momentum shifting, we end up getting a bigger sell-off. That's the risk right here. And again, we're kind of going sideways right now. We'll see if we have an upward or downward resolution. The risk is if we get a downward resolution, we end up getting this bigger sell-off. And then if so, watch the support levels I'm talking about. Got a topping signal right there at the with the topping tail, but it doesn't tell us are we just getting a pullback or a major reversal. Far we've gone sideways, but right now we're trying to break the orange line. If you break the orange line, the risk is you go to the purple. You take out the purple, you can get a bigger sell-off. So again, just watching closely, but we are now trying to break the orange line. Over here we bounced off of it. Over here we bounced off of it. Do we do it again here, break out to the upside, or do we get a bigger sell-off? The risk is if you hold below it, and we had intraday pushes below it but couldn't close below it. If you close below it, the risk is you're going to get a bigger sell-off. please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, please let me know that by supporting the channel today. Have sponsors, just a direct relationship with you, and that's why I just ask that you just do what you can to help out, but I need to hear from you in order to make that work. Just consider following the link below to take you to a secured site and you can donate any amount you want. I thank you for your consideration for that. Take a moment to do that. I would really appreciate it. Bitcoin is getting a sell signal here, which could end up giving us a bigger decline than we've already had. Again, if the stock market is peaking and reversing, which again, I believe it is, I have the seasonality kick in where we begin to sell off in August, and the risk is Bitcoin joins it. They've had short periods of decoupling. Does that continue or not? Getting a sell signal here. I've got warning signs with the green bars ending. We got some gray. We tried to flip back to green, and then it went back to gray. So again, this is just showing us we're neutral. We're going sideways, but now the bars are flipping to red. The cloud is flipping to red, just like over here. And that gave us a bigger sell-off, just like over here. That gave us a bigger sell-off. We were neutral, but now we're turning red. So the risk is we get a bigger sell-off and take out the support zone right there and end up trying to go back to some of these other levels I'm talking about that could be a back test, the inverse head and shoulders pattern, but could also end up giving us a bigger Fibonacci retracement, as I've said, if this whole thing is our first wave of wave 3 and we now get a higher low for intermediate wave 2 of primary wave 3, and that's my alternative count, certainly possible, so be open-minded. But the signal's turning bearish. It could flip right back to bullish if we're just going sideways, but the risk is with the signal turning bearish, we get a bigger sell-off, so keep that in mind. Seeing this, and I don't have time to show you them all, but I'm seeing a lot of my bars flip to red with my candlesticks, telling us we're either going sideways or we're now going to start a bigger move down with some of these signals. Signals all have to be bullish to go higher. They've been mixed as we've gone sideways, and now some of them are turning bearish, suggesting we're going to get a bigger pullback or maybe something even bigger than I think. This whole move was just a wave 1 of wave 3. So we'll be watching, do we get a larger Fibonacci retracement and start moving back below 112,000? The support zone now the resistance zone now turns support. If we take out this level, then the risk is a bigger sell-off, but likely a wave 1 and 2 scenario. If that is the case, be watching closely. At the upper boundary of the bull flag formation, we're starting to see some indicators now begin to turn bearish. Here we have red bars. Here we have the line representing the trend starting to turn back here to neutral. The risk is that we get a bigger sell-off. We had a reversal after the topping tail there, no topping signal. So again, I still think it's likely we're going to go to new highs, but there's risk of a bigger pullback with our red bars. You can see that here. Going sideways, Bitcoin is now seeing some signals turn bearish. We're losing traction here. And again, the risk is that we get a bigger drop for the short term, or something bigger if this whole thing is an entire, this whole thing is an entire wave 1 and we get a bigger Fibonacci retracement for a wave 2, an extended wave 3. So I'll be watching closely. To turn it around, got to be able to get back above the cloud, the upper boundary. The cloud is flipping down. We're flipping to red. So the risk is we get a bigger drop. But we have key support here around the 112,000 area. So again, are we just back testing? Key support, trend lines just above that, and here support levels here just above the 112,000 area. So just again, are we in back test mode or do we get something bigger? Bitcoin's momentum remains negative. The momentum line's negative. Again, the shadow is telling us something big is going to happen. You're going to get some kind of squeeze move. Seeing that on the Bollinger Bands as well. So again, we'll be watching. We got the short-term topping signals over here right after the top and warning that, again, momentum was going negative. We've gone sideways so far. Do we get a deeper retracement? Trend signals here are still bullish. Others are starting to turn bearish, showing we're going sideways or down, and there's risk of a bigger sell-off. Tried to flip things to bullish there, but it couldn't remain. We got the topping tail, and we've gone sideways, tried to turn it back to bullish again, and again, just going back and forth. So now things are bearish. got to be able to clear this area, break out of this range if this is going to end. And remember, we're turning down off the 2017 trend line. Topping tail in the daily time frame there in July, and then we have a topping tail here in the weekly time frame. This is our linear scaling. And I told you we were slamming right up into this trend line from 2017, connected to the first 2021 peak, and you slammed right up into that. You got above the trend line if you connect 2017 to the 2021 peak, excluding the shadow, 2021, the high there, for second peak, and then the highs in December and January recently here, 2024, early 2025. Cleared that level. Now we stalled up this trend line. You got to be able to eventually clear that trend line if the advance is going to resume, if we're going to start moving towards the trend line in our log scaling. Here it is. Again, this is speculation on when we reach it, but this trend line is my target, and this is the log scaling. If we can clear the trend line in our weekly time frame with our linear scaling that we saw that we got rejection at, then this is where I think we're headed, and this is where I think we will top. And again, depending on where we come in to this area, and like I said, it could be that we reach our Fibonacci extension levels and hit this trend line. But like I said, you may fall short of the trend line. We did back over here. We couldn't reach the trend line, and we bottomed before we reached it. Could do the same thing here. I think we're headed towards that upper end of the channel line, and eventually I think we will likely reach it, and I think that is in harmony with the Fibonacci extension levels that I've talked about at great length and detail. That's what I'm saying, the 150,000 to 175,000 area, depending on when we reach this trend line, is where I think we're headed. Once we clear the Fibonacci levels that we're stalling at right now, which I'm showing you on those other charts, we cleared them, you started going parabolic, and so we could see something happen within just a couple of months to reach this upper channel line or move towards it. Close out the month today, and I'm watching to see how we close. Right now, got a little tiny bit of a topping tail there here in the monthly time frame. We've got negative divergences that are developing, but as I keep saying, they may not be done. Still could be under construction. We bounced off our 10-month moving average. We bounced off the cloud here just as we did back over here, just as we did back over here. Okay, we continue to have the 10-month moving average as support. Going to be watching to see how we close currently. Bitcoin is up for the month 9.29%. It's up $9,955 at the moment, pulling back off of the highs at 123,000 made earlier in the month. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4 months up. We do get a bigger pullback, and as I said, it's possible we're completing an intermediate wave 1 of the primary wave 3, and we're going to pull back and get 2. S&P and NASDAQ are likely topping. They're going to pull back for a few weeks, probably get their wave 4, primary wave 4. But just be aware of the weekly divergences that are developing, and you have a multiple point divergence developing on some indicators like the stochastic here in the monthly time frame. You got a divergence developing on the RSI, some triple divergences that are developing on some of my other indicators that again may not be done. We may go bigger pullback, but like I said, here we are in the month of July. We could see August, September, or October giving us a new high. More than likely, we're going to pull back with the market in August. We'll see if Bitcoin joins it. Could see new highs in the next few months to complete the top and get above Fibonacci resistance levels. Our previous rally, we're stalling at the 78.6 Fibonacci, as I talked about in my last update. To clear that, go to the Fibonacci extension levels higher, 1.618. The Fibonacci extension levels for our previous decline, again, we're at that 1.382. So we got to be able to have the momentum to clear those levels, and we could see that happen in the next couple of monthly bars, even if we pull back. So keep that in mind. But I do think we will top soon. I just happen to believe it will be at higher levels. Do pay attention to the divergences that are under construction. It was this divergence was in agreement with the daily chart and the weekly chart that allowed me to call the top there in 2021. See the divergence on the stochastic there as well. Like I said, again, these are forming, but you only get 1 bar per month, so they may not be done yet. It may be that we see them complete later in September or October or something, convergences could still be under construction for a few more months, as I think they likely are.